I think I wait for the music to stop, right? Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. It's such an honor to be here. I just want to assure you, yes, I am. I always start out that way because there's that moment of, really? Who knew? And he's so tall. And what kind of name is Gregory? So I'm going to spell all that out for you here, just taking a few minutes to do so. I have this chair here, and I'm not sure whether to sit in it or kind of treat it like Clint Eastwood did. So I'm going to go back and forth, and we're going to see. L'adore vador, l'adore vador, from generation to generation. This is an organization that cares a great deal about the continuity of the Jewish people, about the mission of learning and belief and spiritual journey and tradition. L'adore vador, from generation to generation. It's something that I believe in a great deal as well. It means something very profoundly to me in my life and in my studies and in my own spiritual path. But I have to tell you, I am here at a very personally difficult time. I am in the middle of the whopper of l'adore vador moments. My father, Don Gregory, died 2 days ago. And my son, Max Gregory, will be bar mitzvah this coming Saturday. So I am here with a heavy heart because I really feel strongly about honoring my commitments as much as I've been able to. I've had to cancel a number of them this week as I've been tending to my stepmother and tending to the details of my father's burial. But I also wanted to be here because I respect the Federation and the federations across the country. I respect the sense of Jewish community. And I feel in God's presence an effort and a desire to elevate the sadness that I feel and to create some moments of holiness by being with all of you and talking this through. My father was born Don Ginsberg in the Bronx. And he wanted to be an actor in the 50s. So he changed his name to Gregory because apparently there aren't a lot of Jews in show business. He was a larger-than-life guy, bearded, dark hair, lost his father when he was 4 years old and always felt the void in his life as a result. Had a mother who, his relationship was sometimes strained with, and an older sister. And he had this great determination to succeed. He was drawn to the luster of show business from a young age. As a lover of the movies, he'd go to the movies on a Sunday afternoon with his mother or maybe a Yankees game. And he wanted to be that actor, moved to Los Angeles in the 50s, tried to make it work, and it really didn't. He went to the Army instead, was stationed in Germany, and discovered lifelong friendships, entertaining the troops, making them laugh a little bit. And he did break into show business as an agent. He managed Bobby Darin and Red Buttons and Rowan and Martin, Harry Belafonte, was at APA, and then was a Broadway producer for many years, producing Clarence Darrow with Henry Fonda, The Belle of Amherst with Julie Harris, and then Camelot and My Fair Lady as revivals in 1980 and 1981. So he had a wonderful career. And he was my biggest advisor in my own career. I told him, I said, look, I think show business is a little rough. So I want to go into television news, which is so much warmer. My father taught me a lot of lessons about never settling, about going for it even if you fail. And when I lost my job at NBC and was no longer the moderator of Meet the Press, he was the first one to remind me that it had been a great run and that my head should be held high and that we'd be on to the next chapter. My father was kind of taken aback by my book, How's Your Faith?, which is the story of my return to my Jewish faith as an adult. And it's about me grappling with the most important questions in my life, which is, who am I? Who is it that I am trying to be? What does it mean to live with a sense of meaning and purpose? These are questions that my father really didn't ask himself. I grew up, like a lot of Jews grow up, I was just Jewish. Yes, the product of an interfaith family. My mother is not Jewish, which is why I have this nice Irish punim. And combined with the last name Gregory, I'll be shocking Jewish audiences for the rest of my life. And growing up in Los Angeles as I did, it was a kind of unusual Jewish upbringing. We went to the synagogue for the performing arts, which was held in the Directors Guild building in Beverly Hills, a wonderful glass front building and a plush lobby inside. And there's all these pictures of movie stars and these Academy Awards. So for years I thought that the Oscar was some kind of Jewish icon, which in many ways it is. But it was still a very warm community, and it fostered a sense of deep Jewish identity in myself. Cultural, ethnic identity, but no real belief, which is why a return to faith in my adulthood had to answer the question, what do I believe? I have a Christian wife who agreed not to convert. She was not interested in that. Her Christian faith is too important to her. But that we would be a Jewish family if I would lead us in faith. If I would discover the answer to her question, which is, I know what you are, I know who you are, but what is it that you believe? And what I have come to believe is a lot about what it means to be Jewish, about what it means to search for God and a relationship with God. I understand the absence of faith. When my mother, as an alcoholic, when I was a teenager, was arrested for drunk driving in front of me. But as an adult, I have been filled with a sense of wonder about faith, about our tradition, and at how it helps me to live and strive to be a better husband and father and Jew. I struggled with my own father when I was a kid. I was very afraid of him. He was this larger-than-life figure, but he was intimidating. He had a booming voice. He was a very tough guy, and he could be tough on me, and I was afraid. And I hated being afraid. And as an adult, I struggled with him further because of that fear as a kid, and our relationship grew apart at various points in my adulthood. And I came to study on my Jewish path with a dear friend, a woman named Erica Brown, who is a Jewish educator and something of a rock star. I studied a lot with Erica. I've shed a lot of tears with her and had a lot of moments of joy. And when at one point I was estranged from my father, we studied the Ten Commandments. We studied the commandment to honor your parents. And she taught me, and we discussed that the commandment doesn't say that we are to love our parents, but that we are to honor them, because without them, our lives wouldn't be our lives. They are the author of our stories. I studied this and I absorbed it, and I decided at that point that I would reconcile with my father. Not because he had apologized, not because I felt that the issues between us were done, but because I wanted my own children to know that it was never right to turn their back on a parent. Because God expects us to honor our parents. And my father and I reconciled, but as I pursued the book, this very private man was uncomfortable with what I was writing about my childhood, about him, about my mother, about secrets in our lives. We talked about that as we went back and forth and worked on these things together. I said, Dad, I don't want to hurt you. I said, that's not the point of this book. And there were times when I think he was deeply troubled that I was sharing details about my fear of him, about incidents when we fought and how he made me feel intimidated, and my sister the same. But perhaps the biggest blessing of the book is that we worked through that. And that in our conversation about the book and about my memories, we made peace with that in a way that we hadn't before. We came together and talked about what was hard, about why things happened, about where he was limited, where I was limited. And we found a resting place for those memories and an ability to work on, to move on. I write at one point of my own faith path about studying the essential stories of our faith and of our background and these morality tales, that if nothing else, that I should learn to become more humble and to learn to forgive. We forgive because we hope to be forgiven. That's the ultimate challenge in our faith and in the larger Judeo-Christian faith. I said to my father that I came to see him in his full humanity, as a man who'd made mistakes, who had regrets, who was not perfect, and nor am I. As he got sicker in this past year, he became awestruck, really, by my story and by my interest in faith. He would say to me, "Son, it's so different. I've never had this, and I'm so interested in it." It wasn't just pride that he felt. It was a deep interest to understand it more and to get closer. How is it in the end with a parent who gets sick? In my father's case, his body broke down, even though his spirit didn't. His mind was sharp, but his body was ravaged. This strong, intimidating, forceful man became afraid because he was vulnerable. And I told him, I said, "Dad, you're not a religious man, but this is a moment to open your heart. Open your heart to God. Open your heart to the love that's around you and let it fill you. Whatever doubts you have, whatever regrets you have, feel the love around you in your life and allow God to carry you through these moments." Because our tradition tells us that as much as Jews, we don't always talk about God, we seek him. We seek that relationship. What do the Psalms tell us? That even if our parents abandon us, God will gather us in. We seek that intimacy. And my father sought that strength. And toward the end, he found it. And so it was last Wednesday, and I was leaving him. He had just come back from the hospital. And I said, "Dad," I said, "look, I hope to see you again. But I said, if you die before that, that's okay. Because my heart is full. Because everything between us has been said. There's nothing unsaid, and I love you. And I'm so grateful that you're my father." And I held his hand, and we prayed, "Adon Olam. Into your hands my soul I place, when I awake and when I sleep. God is with me, I shall not fear. Body and soul from harm will he keep." And I said my goodbye, and he was gone the next day. And so I feel full. I have tears, but I, in a way, enjoy what I feel. In my father's death, I feel a great sense of life. In his memory, in this life-affirming time that I have with family and with his friends. I'll leave you here and bury him in California tomorrow and gather with family and friends, knowing that he is in peace, that he's no longer in pain, and that he, indeed, in the end of his life, was held up toward the light that we all seek. And I really wish he would be there on Saturday, because he wanted to be. And because I had so looked forward to sharing with him the moment when I will pass on the prayer book that he gave to me when I was 13, inscribed, saying, perhaps one day you will give this to your son. And I will do that. And I will tell my son that L'Ador Vador means from generation to generation that we should do as God asks us to do, which is to choose life, to remember those we love, and to learn from them as we learn from each other inside of our community. My book is about that kind of seeking. It's about a question that I feel very strongly about, which is, how's your faith? Do you feel like you've lost it? Is it the same faith you had as a kid? Would your life be better if it were stronger? I stand before you with my faith so much stronger than it's ever been in my life, which is why this is a moment of such deep meaning for me. My dad understood that at the end of his life. My son understands this as he begins his new journey. I urge all of you, however you answer the question, to live inside the question. I urge all of you to think about who you love, about kindness, about forgiveness, about making peace with those people in your life that you care about. Because there's no greater moment than experiencing something difficult and feeling the fullness of God's grace and the love of each other. L'Ador Vador, may it continue from generation to generation. Thank you.